Hi, and welcome to this live reading from Is This Me by Tricia, Copeland, and this is presented by Itsy Bitsy Book Bits. Chapter 1. Waking to the sounds of pots clanging and the smell of bacon wafting up from downstairs, I scanned my now bare walls. Pancake breakfasts marked all our family's major events, and tomorrow I would wake up in a dorm room. I listened to the noise of my parents' laughter and morning news program coming from the kitchen. Although excited about being on my own, I knew I would miss my family. Fortunately, my chosen college, Northwestern University, was only a 2.5-hour drive from my hometown of Champaign. Out of the corner of my eye, I caught the blur of Marissa launching herself onto my bed. I wasn't fast enough, and she landed spread eagle on top of me. "Get up!" I pushed with every ounce of my strength to dislodge her. With her 4-inch and 20-pound advantage, she didn't budge. "I can't believe I was up before you." She smacked me on the leg and pushed herself up. "I was getting up." "No, you were processing." She used air quotes when she said processing. With just 11 months between us, I vacillated between loving and loathing my younger sister. Just like you do about everything. I hope they teach spontaneity at college, or better yet, being social. Getting up, I pulled a sweatshirt over my head. "I'm social." "If you use yearbook, debate team, or Spanish club as examples again," she grabbed a brush off from my dresser and raked it through her hair. I opened my mouth to speak, but she cut in. "Everyone's face is buried in their screens at yearbook. All you talk about is how to argue for debate team, and all you do is talk in a language most people don't understand, in Spanish club." "Half the world speaks Spanish." "No, half the world speaks Chinese." She put the brush down. "But I shouldn't say anything. That's probably next on your list." "Girls, breakfast," Mom called. Marissa wrapped her arms around me, nearly cutting off my oxygen as we made our way down the stairs. "I'm going to miss you so much." She was such a teenager, razzing me one second and bemoaning my loss the next. "I wish you would wait a year. Mom and Dad are going to drive me nuts." One more day of going to the same coffee shop and I was going to go bonkers. No way. "Who's going to help me with the cheerleader drama?" "You can text or call." "Like 4 times a day? I guess it's not like you'll be doing anything." She shoved me down the last few stairs. "Just don't end up being a loner loser, okay? That would be pitiful." "Your sister will not be a loner loser." Mom pulled me into a hug. Marissa grabbed the coffee pot. "I can't believe I got up this early to help her move all her crap to school." She didn't like being up early any more than I did. Dad had agreed to let her miss a day of school to see me off, so she probably figured it was worth it. "How's the country?" I asked Dad, ducking away from his huge hand descending on my head. I'd washed my hair last night and blow-dried it meticulously. There was no way I was letting him ruin it. "We'll find out in a couple months." Politics were as much a tradition in our family as the pancakes and Northwestern. "How's my newest wildcat?" "Good, but I'm thinking you helped with my scholarship because you wanted an excuse to go to the football games and hang out with your alumni brothers for 4 more years. Dad lifted his hands, palms forward. "I was right about Tia loving it. I know where my daughters will be happy." Tia, my older sister, graduated from Northwestern 2 years ago. She'd married Ed, also a Northwestern alum, in June. "And safely protected by the brothers," Marissa pointed at Dad. "You know that strategy could backfire." She hit me on the butt. "A lot of those frat guys are hot. She could fall for one of them." Dad patted my shoulder and pointed at her. "Not this one. Plus, I've got Mark to keep an eye on her." Marissa sat down in front of her plate of pancakes. "Yeah, but Lila is there. I think they cancel each other out." Mark grew up across the street from me, and Lila was my best friend. She was already at Northwestern, having started summer quarter. Her dad had major guilt about not being with her mom anymore, and she begged him to let her go early to be with her boyfriend Ross. A year ahead of us, Ross and Mark were now brothers at my dad's old fraternity. Hand to her hip, Mom raised an eyebrow at Dad and crossed the room with a plate of eggs. Of course, no Avery girl could possibly be caught under the spell of a Northwestern brother scandalously running off to marry him before finishing school. Dad, 2 years ahead of Mom, asked her to marry him when he graduated. She left Northwestern to finish her nursing degree near Dad's flight school. They were married 2 years later, just before he left on his first tour. Dad cleared his throat loudly. "Things were different then." Tia met Ed her freshman year, too. Marissa stuffed a fork full of pancakes in her mouth. I rolled my eyes like I had any interest in frat guys. I was not going to Northwestern to find a boyfriend. All I cared about was their international studies and language programs. Ever since I'd taken my first Spanish course in 6th grade, I'd been hooked. Thinking the CIA or military was a perfect career path for me, Dad insisted I minor in a science or engineering field. I accepted his requirement without much questioning, thinking it was a solid backup plan. Are we eating pancakes or what? At least I'll only have 2 females in the house to gang up on me now, Dad cut in. After our celebratory breakfast, I dressed quickly and reviewed my list. My boxes were packed and ready to load into our sports utility vehicle. All that was left to go in the last bag were toiletries and my computer. Mom came into my room and surveyed my boxes. Ready, sweetie? Think so. She hugged me. Oh, baby girl. I pulled away. Mom, I'm not the baby. You still have Marissa. She's too stubborn. We'll talk every day, and you'll be up for all the home games. I wasn't sure about how I felt about Dad getting season tickets. Part of me was glad I'd see my parents frequently, but part of me wanted more space. Mom smiled. I'm happy you'll be so close. Okay, let's move out. Dad clapped his hands, pacing the hall. Is Marissa ready? I put my ear to the bathroom door. I hear the hairdryer. What does that mean? We have a schedule to keep. He was in officer mode. 20 minutes, Marissa time, sir. I stifled a giggle and resisted the urge to salute. How is it that I ended up with 3 girls? He repeated his usual ranting. Mom rubbed his shoulder. It's okay, Charlie. We'll make it in time. Dad shook his head and grabbed a box. Yeah, the check-in appointment isn't until 1. As I was loading my last bag into our sport utility vehicle, I got a text from Lila. Are you on the way? Soon, I texted back. Call when you get here. Okay. Lila and I had decided not to room together, but I was glad we were in the same dorm. Although friends for years, we both knew it'd never work for us to be roommates. She'd been with Ross for 2 years, and they were nearly inseparable. I liked him, but I didn't want him in my room all the time, or a roommate who was never around. Finally, on our way, my parents used the drive time to review all the do's and don'ts of being on my own. There must have been 100 items, including don't do drugs, don't drink alcohol, no piercings or tattoos, never take an open drink, don't walk alone at night, pay attention to your surroundings, always have an exit route, and don't talk to strangers. The last one seemed like a vestige from childhood. Wouldn't everyone be a stranger? And don't have fun whatever you do, Marissa added, cutting off their endless list. As we neared Chicago, the farmland gave way to factories, row homes, and skyscrapers. In Evanston, home to the Northwestern campus, we left the strip malls and chain stores of suburban sprawl behind. Narrow streets were lined with trees and brick homes. Coming from a small town in the middle of Illinois, I probably overly romanticized life near a big city, but I was drawn to the constant activity. We found my dorm easily, and I sent a text to Lila to let her know we'd arrived. In my room, 215, come up, she texted back. I checked in at the front desk, and we got everything up to my room in one trip, thanks to the help of 3 muscular volunteers. Dad went down to move the car while we found Lila's room. The door was open, and I crossed the room to hug her. Looking around, I was stunned at her progress. Wow, you're quick. With a check-in time just an hour ahead of me, the loft for her bed was already together, and her dad was packing tools in a bag. The bed was made, and her mom was hanging curtains. Helps when you've done it before. And, she scanned the room and leaned into me, have an army determined to one-up each other. What about your roommate? She comes in this afternoon. She held up both hands in front of my face, crossing her fingers. Lila's roommate over the summer had been a struggling sophomore who slept most of the day and was up most of the night. It was so miserable, Lila had basically lived at the frat house with Ross. Because of her experience, I contacted my roommate Elise as soon as we were matched up. She was a senior drum major in the marching band and belonged into a sorority. In my book, all this equaled someone who was responsible and mature. Dad was happy she owned a microwave and fridge. She'd even volunteered to bring a television and stereo system. Feeling the need to take advantage of my helpers, we left Lila and her 2 sets of parents and returned to my room to unpack. When we walked in, Dad was in the middle of a full-blown rage against the loft pieces. Perhaps cued in to our presence by the noise, a girl poked her head in through the bathroom doorway. Hi, I'm Kate. I'm next door. I guess we share a bathroom? She bounded into the room, offering her hand, her jet black hair bouncing on her head. Did you switch rooms? I'd been given our suite mates' names, Kyung and Emily, so I was confused. Her nose wrinkled and she rolled her eyes. My real name is Kyung, but I go by Kate. I introduced my family and we went over to meet hers. Her warm smile and enthusiasm seemed genuine, and I liked her right away. Dad got some pointers on putting the loft together, and we left her to finish unpacking. Amazingly, within 3 hours, we had my room fairly organized. We chose a restaurant close to campus for dinner before they headed home. Back at my dorm, we exchanged goodbyes in the parking lot. Mom was teary-eyed, and I promised to call before I went to sleep. Walking back to my room, I maneuvered around the droves of students, feeling both excited and apprehensive. Assessing the last 2 boxes, I chose to unpack my books and movie collection. Halfway through, my phone buzzed in my back pocket. It was a mass text from our resident assistant reminding us of the mandatory dorm meeting starting in 10 minutes. I finished off the box and found my brush and mirror. At exactly 7, Kate knocked on the door. You want to walk down to orientation together? I slid on my boots and we joined the progression down to the basement. I wasn't sure which I dreaded more about the next few days, the orientation sessions or the social mixers. Seemingly unfazed by the masses of people, Kate introduced herself to everyone we came across. We found Lila, and as I expected, she hated being there as much as I did. Hands on hips, she looked around. This is stupid. I can't believe I have to be here. I went through this last quarter. I'm not going to throw myself out a window. Excited about a party at the fraternity house, she was ready to ditch this meetup at the earliest opportunity. She knew the drill. We just had to stay for the presentation, sign the attendance sheet, and then we were clear. I was more than happy with being included in that plan. With the crowd of people, I was becoming more claustrophobic by the second and hoped the house party would be a smaller gathering. We invited Kate to join us, but she declined. Signing the roster after the presentation, Lila and I headed for the elevator. She danced around me as we rode up to my room. I'm so excited you're finally here. We are going to have so much fun. I can't wait to see all the clothes Marissa bought you. We'll find something awesome for you to wear. I need to change? I'd looked at my outfit as we got off the elevator. I'd just changed before dinner, and I thought I'd done a pretty good job. Tomorrow they have to clean for the alumni barbecue, so this will be one of the biggest parties of the year. All the brothers and potentials will be there. I had no clue what potentials were, and my hope for an intimate hangout with Mark, Lila, and Ross vanished like a puff of smoke. In my room, Lila browsed through my closet. Finding something awesome to wear really meant she would choose what she wanted me to wear. This was a long tradition in our friendship, and I didn't fight it. She always looked great, although sometimes a little risque for my taste. I'd learned how to make her happy without sacrificing my standards. Picking an outfit from the many choices Marissa had added would just give me a headache anyway. Lila held up a pair of jeans and a skirt. I pointed to the jeans and she frowned. She was constantly trying to get me to wear more skirts. Pants helped my legs look longer. Only reaching 5'2", looking taller always equaled better in my book. In the end, Lila threw a dark pair of skinny jeans, a spaghetti-strapped blue top, and strappy wedge sandals at me as she walked out the door. I dressed and touched up my makeup and hair. She returned not minutes later in a short dress and wedges. Looking in the mirror, she added darker liner and shadow to my eyes. Taking the elevator down to the lobby, she opened an app on her phone. You have to get on this. It's the best way to get a ride. After sitting in the car half the day, walking was more appealing to me. In my heels, I'd probably only make it 2 blocks, so I followed her lead. Are you sure about this? Is it safe? Sure, I've been doing it forever. You never did it in Champaign. She rolled her eyes. Okay, well, since I came here, we're not going to end up in a dumpster. Well, I'm not. You're the one with bad luck. She handed me her phone with the company's safety information. If we're going to go by superstition that bad luck comes in threes, I'm done. You're counting law? Of course. These days I was counting every incident I could to believe I was finished with my run of bad luck. I scrolled through the safety information and realized it was totally legit. I passed her phone back to her. See, your dad's got you paranoid. Isn't it expensive? How much do you make tutoring? $25 an hour, right? This is $5 and the bus will take an hour on the weekend. A car pulled up and she opened the door and waved me in. The driver routed through the deserted main campus. The streets and lawns grew more crowded as we neared the Greek houses. I fidgeted with my necklace and Lila batted my hand from my neck. You met a good number of the guys this summer. You remember Bill, right? Sure. I reminded myself that one reason for coming to school here was to meet new people. Lila paid the driver and we took a narrow path that ran along the side of the building to the back of the house. Mark and Ross were playing volleyball in the sand pit and we greeted them with a wave. Mark was a great player and loved the game. He'd tried, mostly in vain, to improve my skills over the summer. As we sat on the grass to watch the match, a yellow lab lumbered over to me and rubbed against my legs. I patted her head and she curled up at my feet. If Kate counted, I'd made my second new friend. The guys made the game look easy, expending little effort and lofting the ball back and forth over the net. I recognized Bill from the summer. 2 exceptionally tall guys on his team stood out, and I could have watched them play all night. Defeated by Bill's team, Mark and Ross sauntered over to where we were sitting. Mark collapsed on top of my outstretched legs, displacing the dog who circled behind me. "Ew, sweaty boy!" I tried to push him off, but he was like pushing against a brick wall. I gave up. "Decent game, you only lost by 3. He rolled off, standing to replace his shirt. Bill and the taller guys from the other team approached us, retrieving their shirts from the lawn. Mark motioned them towards me. "Hey, you guys should meet Amanda." I stood quickly, fighting the urge to brush away any grass that might be clinging to my pants. "Hi, I'm Bill. We met this summer." "Right, good game." I shook his outstretched hand. "Thanks." He motioned toward the house. "Sorry, I need some water." "This is Doug, our president," Mark continued. Still shirtless, Doug held out his hand toward me. Purposely making eye contact, I slid my hand into his. "Avery, right, your dad's an alum." With olive skin and dark wavy hair, my boobay would have said he was Greek, but she had a thing for Greeks. He sported a perfect 5 o'clock shadow, and his deep blue eyes were focused on me. I forced myself to concentrate. "Right," I nodded, not knowing what else to say. My face felt like it was engulfed in flames. Seriously, couldn't Mark have waited to introduce us until after they had their shirts on? "And this is Zach." Mark pointed to the super tall blonde guy again beside Doug. "He's our VP." Having to look nearly straight up to make eye contact, I shook his hand as well. He must have been at least 6'4". Where did these guys come from? They looked like they stepped out of a magazine. "You stink, and I already took a shower," Lila squealed, bringing me out of my trance. Ross grabbed her and slung her over his shoulder, carrying her across the lawn and toward the house. Mark tapped me on the shoulder. "Hey, I need a shower too. I'll be back in a few minutes. Do you want to hang out here?" He's abandoning me in front of 2 good-looking, shirtless strangers? Sure," I heard myself say. Thankfully, he stood there a minute longer. "I'll grab a round of drinks." He darted away. "Nice spike there at the end," I commented to Zach. "Thanks. I see you have a shadow." He bent down and patted the dog still glued to my leg. Excusing themselves to replace their shirts, Doug and Zach once again towered over me. Even in my wedges, the top of my head barely reached the middle of Zach's chest. Zach spoke before the silence became obvious. "So, Amanda Avery of the famed Avery sisters." "In the flesh." I waved my hands past my legs, not quite sure where he was going with the conversation. Obviously, they knew their alums. Doug continued in an Elizabethan tone. "The beauty of the Avery girls has inspired many brothers to greatness." "I'm just glad no one remembers when I flashed everyone on the front lawn when I was 3. "Your reputation's still intact." Doug winked at me with his blue eyes. Mark approached with 3 plastic cups filled with amber liquid. I wondered if this counted as taking an open drink from someone. At the very least, it went against the no alcohol rule. Not even 6 hours in, and I was already contemplating being an illegal drinker. Maybe I needed that orientation more than I thought. Even though I didn't like beer and had never drunk a whole glass, I wasn't going to stand there and do nothing. The sip I took tasted bitter, and I hoped my face didn't betray my attempt at a relaxed facade. "Not that great, is it?" Doug asked. "It's relatively cold." Zach held up his cup. "Cheers to that." Doug and I did the same, and we clunked the cups together. "If I may, m'lady, I'm not sure you're going to maintain your virtue drinking that." Doug punched Zach. "Dude." I winked at Zach. "Maybe you should stick with flattery and leave Shakespeare to Doug. You have to stay in your niche." I was surprised how comfortable I felt with them. Their knack for humor immediately put me at ease, despite their magazine model aura. "So, do you guys do this routine on a regular basis?" Zach held his cup out. "This is a one-time only special showing. If we hope to win the heart of an Avery girl, we have to be creative. And there are only 2 of us left to be wooed. We would be nothing without your inspiration." Doug bowed toward me, one hand over his heart. Zach and I both faked a cough. Doug grabbed a frisbee from the lawn. "Frisbee?" The lab followed me as I slid my wedges off and propped the beer between them. Doug and Zach were better coordinated, playing with their cups in one hand. Mark returned and joined us, and we tossed the frisbee around a few more minutes before Doug and Zach excused themselves for showers. As they left, Lila and Ross approached. Lila made sure to untuck my hair from behind my ear. Why do you do that when you get nervous? I fluffed my hair out and stuffed my free hand in my pocket with my phone. Better? Much. She kissed me on the cheek. We hung out, talking and milling through the crowd. I was introduced to almost every brother and potential there. Potential, I learned, was a potential pledge, usually an entering freshman with an alumni connection. Feeling guilty about ditching the dorm social, I was glad I was at least meeting some freshmen. After drinking half the beer, being social was easier, and I enjoyed the evening despite myself. Later, Mark started another volleyball game. Looking around, I noticed Lila had disappeared. Thirsty and tired, I went inside to find her. Not seeing her downstairs, I made my way up to the common area in the middle of the second floor. She was nowhere to be seen, so I leaned against the sofa to text her. I could hear my parents' voices in my head. Freshman lesson number 1, always have a trustworthy buddy. Either they had missed one or I had stopped listening. Then again, their rule about no drinking parties would have covered this situation.